Rehn and Rajoy hold talks in Madrid, but still no formal request from Spain for aid. That and a ratings downgrade, though, are on the cards, according to most observers, but now looks like coming after the European Central Bank meets this Thursday. Out now to James Ashley. He's Senior European Economist at RBC Capital Markets. James, EU Commissioner Olli Rehn in Madrid, as I said there, the usual pat on the back stuff about Spain on track. However, he did say that aid for Spanish banks will come by November, and also the EU will give its verdict on Spain's budget on November 7th. What's your reaction?
I think that's probably as much as we could have expected from the meeting today. I think the really interesting meeting is probably in a couple of weeks when the European Council meets. For now, it's quite clear that Prime Minister Rajoy is going to hold off from requesting any formal sovereign aid function for as long as he possibly can, and that's partly a reflection of economic conditions, partly a reflection of the political realities in Spain. So I think for now, we continue to watch for incremental pieces of news, whether it's on the Spanish banks, the Spanish bad bank or the Spanish sovereign. But I think until we get to the 18th, 19th Council meeting, it's unrealistic to expect any sovereign aid request. And
yet Spanish yields and other yields are down today. One would have thought that given the generally optimistic grounds on which the Spanish budget and French budgets were based last week, and Rajoy still holding out, you'd expect the markets to react negatively.
Well, I think generally we are seeing the pressure ratcheted ever higher on Spain. I mean, we had the comments from Prime Minister Rajoy in the Wall Street Journal just last week saying that it would require Spanish yields to rise from where they are right now before he'd submit a request, and we got an instant reaction to that. Spanish yields did indeed rise. So sure, there's a bit of a relief today, but I think generally what we're seeing is that until or unless Spain puts in that request, we'll see the pressure ratcheted ever higher, and Spanish yields will continue to drift higher from where they are right now.
As I mentioned there, most people seem to think Spain and France's forecasts for next year were a bit overly optimistic. One forecast you think, for once, isn't overly optimistic comes from Greece today.
Yeah, it's quite ironic that for once we have a bit of positive news, I think, in terms of the Greek authorities have really put out what they consider to be a realistic picture of the extent of the crisis and the extent of the recession. They're expecting the economy to contract by around 6.5% this year. That seems plausible. But then next year they're expecting a further contraction of over 3.5%. We've got a contraction of 2.5%. So we're arguing over, if you like, the magnitude of the contraction. We can all agree that the situation over there is absolutely dire.
It's the sixth, that will be the sixth year of consecutive year of recession.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's a truly awful situation. You look at the labour market dynamics, you look at output and activity more generally, and it's really a terrible situation over there. And I think there's an increasing realisation that the current bailout package simply isn't sustainable. So sure, it's positive news in our view that I think we expect output to be less negative than the government is currently expecting, but it's still a really negative outlook overall.
OK, as I said in the intro, all this comes, of course, as the ECB meets on Thursday. What can we expect from Mr Draghi?
So I think, obviously last month we had the focus on the transmission mechanism and less focus on the policy itself. I think this time the focus comes back to policy, back to conventional monetary policy. Will they do anything with interest rates? So I think he will be quizzed about this OMT. I don't think he'll be giving away any further details. He really wants to see what Rajoy or perhaps Monti come up with in terms of submitting a bailout request. I think on the OMT, expect nothing at all. In terms of conventional monetary policy, we also expect no change this time around, but it is possible that we could see a refi rate cut. So I think we could potentially see the refi rate cut from 0.75 to 0.5, but I wouldn't expect that. Even if they do that, I would still expect the deposit rate to be kept at zero. I think negative interest rates right now for the ECB is a step too far.
OK, just to finish up quickly, if you can, if we have this conversation this time next week, will we be talking on the day Spain requests formal aid from Eurogroup?
I don't think so. I think it's too early. I think the Eurogroup meeting, they will discuss the possibility and what the modalities of a Spanish bailout might look like, but the actual request, I still think the earliest is going to be the European Council meeting.
OK, James, thank you very much. My thanks there to James Ashley from RBC Capital Markets. That's all from us for now. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.